In this video, I want to upgrade my Legion 5 Pro with 32 gigabytes of memory and 2 times 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. Mine comes with the 16 gigabyte memory as standard and a 1 terabyte SSD installed. I'm going to remove both of the SSD and the memory and upgrade with my own I have bought. And yeah, let's just have a closer look actually how to disassemble this machine. First off, go into the BIOS and disable the battery. I recommend you do so, and as well does Lenovo. It's not mandatory, but definitely is a nice little extra added security. After that, of course, remove any kinds of plug you have connected to the computer, like power and USB and LAN cable and so on. You don't have to use or remove the USB in the sides, but it's always a nice thing to do so. And then you have 10 screws on the bottom. All of them are Phillips heads. And just make sure you keep track of your screws using a little tray like this one here. And then you need the Phillips head 0 to get into the machine, and also inside the machine when you want to replace the SSDs. You need the same screwdriver, so just one screwdriver will do it all. And I recommend you use anti-static gloves if you have some. I always prefer using these just to be safe. And it is recommended by Intel, so yeah, I think it is definitely a nice little added bonus, and it don't really cost that much. So if you don't have one, I recommend also go and get some. I can, of course, link to some down in the description below. Else, of course, like I said, you have to remove the 10 screws. Just keep track of your screws. Always a good thing to do. But this machine here is pretty simple. You have the long screws on the back and on the side. But at the front, you do have shorter screws. So just keep that in mind so you don't accidentally screw in the longer screws in the front and vice versa. So like I said, always keeping track of your screws will make it a lot more easy, but there is only really 2 different kinds of screws here, and all the small ones go in the front, and you can see the long ones here go in the back and on the side of the laptop. So not really all that hard to keep track of. So anyways, after removing all of these 10 screws, I recommend using some suction cup if you have some. If not, I can also link these down in the description below. Makes it a little bit easier to get inside the computer. Not mandatory, but it's just a little extra help actually getting inside. So let's just pop them on here in the bottom of the case. And I did see Lenovo's website where they actually went through disassembling the Legion 5 non-pro variant. They recommended you using a small, skinny metal tool in the back and actually started off there. So I thought it would be interesting just to test it out, even though my instinct would say just go inside in the front of the machine. It would be a lot easier. And you can see there's not really any gap on the back side there, and I didn't really want to squeeze the little metal pry tool inside to actually scratch my device. So I ended up just going from the front, and you can see the suction cups there just makes it a lot easier to pull the 2 parts or the 2 different sections apart, and you just run a little plastic tool all the way around. These small plexers here is excellent, and like the rest of the tools, I can link it down in the description below. Just make sure that you also get the fan assembly or the fan exhaust off as well. They are a part of the bottom section, so all the black in the bottom there, you need to remove that, and all of the silver is part of the frame. So the bottom plate there is actually surprisingly easy to remove, and I didn't break any of the little plastic notches there inside, which is a nice thumbs up here, because yeah, I tend to have an issue with at least some ThinkPad computers and other laptops I've disassembled throughout the years. Those little plastic tabs are just so hard to get apart, and you end up just breaking 1 or 2 or more than that. But this one was actually quite easy to get into, almost like Lenovo really wanted you to be able to replace the parts inside. So definitely thumbs up here. And there is, like I said, none of the plastic little tabs they're broken on my device here. And there is also a little message inside, the Art of Legion. But yeah, anyways, once we get inside here, of course, remove the battery from the motherboard. Just using 2 pry tools there makes it a little bit easier. And next off, remove this frame or shell here, protecting the memory. Again, I always recommend using plastic wherever you can when you are disassembling any kind of electronics. And this little lid here is just to shield the memory from the elements or from the heat, I would believe. And then inside we have the Samsung memory, and these are the ones with the lower timings ratings. So some games should actually benefit from upgrading these memories because of the pretty bad timing, as Jaros Tech on YouTube explained in one of his videos. So it could maybe be a beneficial thing to actually upgrade these memories, but I don't plan to use mine for gaming. I only plan to use it for content creation. So this is only really what I am interested in, is getting more memory, because 16 is a little bit too little for the kind of stuff that I do. It is okay, but anyways, let's just get into the left NVMe SSD. This one should not be occupied. So let's just disassemble this little heat spreader. That's actually a piece of aluminium with a little thermal pad here, actually pre-applied to the aluminium, which is quite nice, and it should actually be able to remove some of the heat away from that NVMe SSD. And definitely the SSDs I have installed in this one here runs very cool in this machine here. I plan to upgrade to these Kingston A2000. I have 2 of these 1 terabytes laying around that I don't use, and these are single-sided NVMe SSDs. Not the fastest, but they are very power efficient, more than twice power efficient compared to the ones already installed from Lenovo, and they don't run hot at all. So very cool SSDs. And of course, remove the little screw before you actually mount the SSD. If your screw doesn't look like a screw but also have this fixture attached to it, you need to remove that as well from the screw. Not put the SSD below this fixture. That way you could actually accidentally damage the socket, and the thermal pad will not reach in contact with the SSD because it will be bending downwards. So yeah, just keep in mind that you need to have the SSD under the screw and not under the fixture there. And of course, 1 screw and some isopropyl alcohol, and I use a little blower there to blow just any kind of dust away, and then just install that little thermal spreader there with the inbuilt little thermal pad. So yeah, easy installment. There's 3 Phillips head screws. Like I said, all the screws use the same Phillips head 0, so you don't need to change out anything in between switching them out or installing SSDs and the back plate or bottom plate. The other one here does already have a SSD installed, so of course I will remove that one because I want to put the same one in. I have 2, like I said, of the A2000s, and they run cooler and use less power than the ones installed, and I don't really need this super fast speed. The A2000 is more than plenty for what I need. So I'm going to use this with an external enclosure and just use it as a backup drive for any kind of filing I want to do, and back up to this here Western Digital NVMe SSD. Quite a nice the NVMe SSD. I believe it's the same as the SN750, but this is of course an OEM variant, and it's also single-sided, and it is 1 terabyte SSD. So yeah, great SSD. Not dissatisfied with it, but I just feel like I get more bang for the buck with the A2000s in terms of power efficiency and heat as well. And I don't really plan to transfer big amounts of files between the 2 SSDs I have inside my computer. So I don't really need those super fast speeds. And those are only really, in my opinion, something you see in the benchmark you actually are running. Not really something you will notice in day-to-day tasks. And those SSDs also match quite well with the motherboard, blue as the motherboard. So yeah, kind of looks like they are meant to be in this machine here. And also having the same SSD in each side, I'm pretty sure it will not bottleneck anything in terms of reading or writing to and from the disk if I want to transfer files between the 2, because yeah, identical drives. There's no one drive that is faster than the other. And of course you don't have PCI Express Gen 4 in this machine, so not really any benefits running a PCI Express Gen 4 SSDs inside of these machines here. So that's the SSD upgraded. So now I have 2 terabyte NVMe SSDs inside this machine here. And next off is the memory. Make sure you get some memory that already has the XMP profile applied. These ones here seem to be the best you can get right now. Be careful with the Crucial Ballistics memory because they don't have the XMP profile already by default turned on. You cannot enable it later inside the BIOS. But anyways, these are 3200 megahertz memory. This is supposed to be dual rank, and also cache latency is a little bit faster or better timings. They are at 20 compared to the 22 that is installed in the machine. And of course, the other timings we'll have a look at a little bit later is also quite a bit tighter. So you should get a little bit better for performance in some applications. And I'm curious to see how well it will actually perform in DaVinci Resolve, if I can notice anything really or measure anything really in terms of benchmark. But anyways, just of course, plug them in like you can see here. It's pretty easy to do so. Fun little fact is that Kingston is only called Kingston now, so Kingston Fury. They have kind of scratched the HyperX branding after HP bought them, at least for the memory. So these are actually the newer ones. If you could get some still HyperX branded, these are the older stock, but I believe it's the same other than the sticker on there. I can't find anything different in the spec that I have read online. But anyways, put the little lid on there again, so you can protect the memory from heating or whatever kind of protection you have. And always remember to plug back in the battery. Man, I have done a few times where I actually assembled the computer and I forgot to plug in the battery. That's so annoying. And it is also a little bit annoying actually plugging this little plug in. It's a very stiff plug and a lot of cables running through it. So yeah, remember to plug it back in and then of course put the lid back on. Originally I thought I would just leave the lid on, just not squeezing it completely in place, just so I could test the machine and see if everything was running. And as I find out in just a few seconds here, it wasn't really possible because I couldn't really get the, as you can see here, power plug inside the machine because it didn't align with the holes on the back. So I kind of have to just squeeze the frame in place or the bottom in place on the frame before I could actually test the machine. You need to have the power connected when you have disabled the battery inside the BIOS before you can actually turn the machine on. So that's also a good little thing to note. If the machine is not turning on and you don't have any power connected to it, that's why, if you have disabled the battery inside the BIOS. But yeah, just squeezing it in place all the way around takes a few seconds and it is very easy to do. You can just hear them click in place, the little tabs there, and yeah, on the bottom side here, lay it on the lid downwards and just press it all the way around so you make sure every little tab is actually held nicely in place. And it is very easy to do, and this machine, like I said, has been a pleasure to work on in terms of laptop machining. Very easy to get into and very easy to get out of again and assemble again. And now, of course, the power plug will fit just fine inside the machine. So just one little note, you can't really plug in the power if you don't have the bottom plate firmly attached to the computer. And first thing to test, of course, is get inside the BIOS. You need to hold the FN key if you have FN function enabled. If you don't have that enabled, you just need to hit the F2 key. And after a few seconds there, you should boot up in BIOS. And if you are lucky, you will see like this one here, where you can actually see the system memory is up to 32 GB. And both of my NVMe SSDs have been detected just fine. So that's definitely a big thumbs up here. And one thing I always do when I have new memory before I do anything else is test it out in MemTest 86. This is a test that will just run for several hours. I just run the 4 passes standard test, but it will test hvis du vil skulle installere Windows. Og lad bare testen køre. Jeg kører standardtesten, hvilket er 4 passes, så den skal godkendes 4 gange, hvor den simpelthen bare skriver og læser til rammene over en længere periode. Jeg mener, det tog for det 4,5 eller 5,5 timer for at køre den test her, og simpelthen bare lade maskinen stå, og så tester den rammene, og så skulle det forhåbentlig få en pass-test, hvis rammene skulle køre helt stabilt, og du ikke får nogen læse- eller skrivefejl til eller fra rammene. Så altid en god ting, så man ved, at stabiliteten er i orden, i hvert fald med de RAM, man har installeret. Og som du kan se her, hvis alting er i orden, så skulle det gerne få et pass, som du kan se. Og det betyder så, at der i hvert fald ikke er fundet nogen fejl i den test, der er kørt her. Og som sagt, kørt den næsten 5 timer testen. Og benchmark ind i samme værktøj, så du kan se originalen mod Kingston. Kingston er altså en lille smule hurtigere den test her, men det er altså lidt i marginalerne, og jeg tror ikke, det er noget, man kunne mærke i dag-til-dag brug. Og selvfølgelig husk lige at sætte de små skruer i fronten af computeren. Der er 4 stykker, selvfølgelig er de små her i fronten. Og de resterende lange skruer skal bare de resterende skruehuller. Og så er det egentlig bare med at skrue dem i, og sørg for at lade være med at skrue dem alt for hårdt i. Bare sørg for, at de sidder godt fast. Og ja, jeg kan godt nogle gange tidligere i hvert fald have tendens til at skrue tingene lidt for hårdt fast. Og når det er så, at jeg strammer en maskine som den her, så skruer dem kun lige løst fast først. Og så det her hedder cross-tighten, eller kryds, strammer jeg bagefter. hvor jeg sådan går på kryds mellem de forskellige skruer. I det. Skrivehastigheden og læsehastigheden er i overensstemmelse med andre diske, når du overfører små filer og store filer, og til gengæld så får du nogle diske, der bruger mindre strøm og bliver mindre varme. Og i forhold til Resolve Studio, som er det program, jeg bruger, og er det, jeg skal bruge maskinen til at vel teste og se, om jeg kunne få nogle hurtigere eksporteringstider, som du kan se balanceret. Første test her, og efterfølgende, når jeg så har sat det 32 GB RAM i, kan du se her, fra balanceret til silent til performance til intern SSD, hvorimod at de andre test er gjort med ekstern USB SSD, så kan du se, at det er faktisk alle sammen stort set lige så hurtigt, og i hvert fald inden for en file margin, der ikke er nogen særlig betydning. Det eneste, der egentlig er den største flaskehals, det er, hvis du kører den på batteri og kører eksporteringen her, så kan du se, så er vi altså op i næsten 20 minutter længere tid, eksporteringstid på den her 23 minutters video, hvor resterende, ligegyldigt stort set, om du har Optimus eller overclocking i BIOS'en slået til, får du det samme eksporteringstider i DaVinci Resolve. Og som du kan se på de her tests, der var jeg lige op på de der 15 GB hukommelse, og både med Optimus og uden Optimus, så brugte jeg op til de der 93% af grafikkortet. Og i forhold til skærmen, hvis der er nogen, der er interesseret, så fik jeg 100% sRGB på min, og i de 70'erne, når det kommer til de andre, så 71 NTSC, 77% Adobe RGB, og jeg mener også, det er 77% DCI-P3 farvespektrum, så det er ikke det bredeste farvespektrum i den skærm her, men hvis du arbejder i sRGB-spektrum, så er det ganske fint. Og hvis du er videoproducerer eller laver videoer på maskinen her, og du har tænkt dig at bruge den til det, så vil jeg anbefale 32 GB RAM, hvis du arbejder med 4K-video, og selvfølgelig smide en ekstra SSD i, hvad end du har råd eller plads til. Så helt sikkert anbefales at opgradere, hvis man har brug for flere RAM, men ikke hvis du forventer en hurtigere eksporteringstid. Der er ikke rigtig noget at vinde der. Men det var stort set alt i den her video. Jeg håber, vi ses igen i en fremtidig en. Indtil da,